I am a licensed structural engineer who designs 40-story skyscrapers. My neighbor is a crypto bro in salmon shorts who thinks he knows more about load-bearing walls than I do. Let me tell you exactly how his ego flooded my living room. Moving into a new house is universally exhausting. You are fighting a war against cardboard boxes, your back hurts, and you haven't seen your favorite spatula in 3 days. But nature is cruel, and apparently when a woman is moving into a house alone, she emits an invisible, high-frequency pheromone. This pheromone travels through the suburban air, bypassing fences and hedges, until it reaches its target, the single, overly confident male neighbor. Just to be entirely clear about my credentials, I am a licensed architect as well as a structural engineer. I have a mind like a steel trap and 2 master's degrees. I spend my days calculating live loads, wind shear, and the tensile strength of reinforced concrete for 40-story commercial high-rises. If my math is off by a fraction of a millimeter, skyscrapers become horizontal scrap metal. I am, for all intents and purposes, a master of the physical universe. And then there is Trent. Trent lives next door. Trent wears salmon-colored shorts, leather boat shoes without socks, and a polo shirt that is entirely too tight around the biceps. Trent manages a mid-tier cryptocurrency portfolio and firmly believes that holding a power tool makes him irresistibly attractive. It all started on my 3rd day in the new house. The front door was propped open to let in a breeze, and I was standing in my living room enjoying a rare moment of peace. In my hand, I held a 4x6-inch wooden picture frame containing a photo of my childhood golden retriever, Barnaby. It weighed roughly 4.5 ounces. I was just about to tap a tiny, delicate brad nail into the wall to hang it. Suddenly, a shadow falls across the threshold. "Whoa there, neighbor. Let's not do anything drastic." I turned. It's Trent. He has invited himself inside, crossing my threshold with the unearned swagger of a man who thinks he's about to save a maiden from a dragon. Except the dragon is a piece of drywall, and the maiden has a higher IQ than his entire fantasy football league combined. Trent assesses the situation. He looks at the tiny hammer in my hand. He looks at the tiny picture frame. He smiles a smile that is 50% veneer and 100% condescension. "I saw the open door," Trent says, stepping entirely too close into my personal space. "Thought I'd come introduce myself. Trent, I live next door, and it looks like I got here just in time to rescue you." I blinked, my exhaustion momentarily overriding my social graces. "Rescue me from what, Trent?" "I'm hanging a picture of a dog." Trent chuckles. It's a deep, vibrating chuckle designed to sound masculine, but mostly just sounds like a congested engine. Without waiting for permission, he physically reached out and took the tiny hammer from my hand. "Hanging a picture isn't just tapping a nail, Ellie," Trent says, lowering his voice an octave. He casually flexes his forearm so she can see his gym progress. "It's about understanding the environment. A lot of single women move in, try to DIY things, and boom, the wall looks like Swiss cheese. Let a man handle this." I stared at my empty hand. I considered the legal ramifications of burying Trent under the foundation of my future patio. I took a slow, deep breath. "Trent, I really don't need help. It's a 4-ounce frame. I just need to put a finishing nail right here." I pointed to the wall. Trent tuts, wagging his finger at me. He turned his back to me, fully commandeering my living room wall. Then he reached into my toolbox and produced, inexplicably, a massive 2-inch galvanized steel framing nail. A nail designed to hold a deck together during a Category 4 hurricane, for Christ's sake. Trent, absolutely not, I said, my engineer brain snapping to attention. That is a framing nail. You're going to obliterate the gypsum. You don't even know where the studs are. Hang on. I reached into my unpacked box on the floor and pulled out a yellow plastic device. I brought my professional stud finder home from work. Just use this. Trent looked at the stud finder as if I had just offered him an expired coupon for salad. He actually recoiled. No offense, sweetheart, but I don't rely on electronic crutches. Those things are wildly inaccurate. It uses a capacitive sensor to detect changes in dielectric constant, Trent. It is literally physics. Physics is just a theory, Ellie, Trent says, entirely serious. I prefer to use my instincts. He turns back to the wall. He raises a fist and begins to knock on the painted drywall, closing his eyes and leaning his head in, like a horse whisperer trying to tame a wild stallion. Thump, thump, thump. I don't need a stud finder, Trent whispers to the wall, trying to look mysterious and capable. I have an intuitive grasp of drywall density. Behind him, my soul was slowly detaching from my physical body. I was watching this man in salmon-colored shorts commune with my living room wall. An intuitive grasp of drywall density, I repeated flatly. Exactly, Trent says, his eyes still closed. You have to feel the resonance. A hollow thud means you're in the void. But a sharp staccato ping, that's the heartbeat of the house. That's the stud. Thump, thump, thump. Trent opens his eyes triumphantly and jabs his finger at a random spot on the wall. Right there, dead center of the structural spine. I looked at the spot. Based on standard 16-inch on center framing rules, the location of the electrical outlets, and basic common sense, I know with absolute mathematical certainty there is nothing behind that drywall except insulation and darkness. Trent, I said, my voice eerily calm, I am telling you, as a licensed structural engineer, there is no stud there. And even if there was, you do not need a structural anchor for a 4-ounce photograph. Trent sighs. It is the long, weary sigh of a visionary surrounded by simpletons. He turns around, leans against the wall, and gives me a look that he probably practiced in a bathroom mirror. Ellie, Trent begins softly, oozing unearned authority. I know you're smart. You've got the degrees. You do the math. Trent, I am the lead engineer on a 42-story commercial high-rise. Exactly! And that's cute. Good for you, he says, nodding patronizingly. But we aren't talking about steel I-beams right now. We are talking about the delicate ecosystem of residential drywall. He holds up the massive galvanized nail, gesturing with it like a professor holding a piece of chalk. You see, in commercial architecture, you're just dealing with basic static loads. But here, in a house, you have to account for the plaster-to-wood ratio of the kinetic drop. I froze. My brain was scouring thousands of hours of advanced calculus, material science lectures, and structural mechanics textbooks. The what? The plaster-to-wood ratio of the kinetic drop, Trent repeats, emphasizing the words as if speaking to a toddler. When you introduce the nail into the vertical plane, it creates a microscopic seismic event, the kinetic drop. If that ratio isn't balanced against the frame's weight, the whole wall's integrity is compromised. Micro fissures, total structural failure. I am utterly paralyzed by the sheer gravitational pull of Trent's ignorance. He has just invented a branch of physics to justify his ego. He shot me a devastatingly smug wink. I know you build skyscrapers, babe, but residential drywall is a whole different beast. It's about respecting the nail. Respecting the nail. I folded my arms across my chest. I took one step back to clear the blast radius. Okay, Trent, I said, my voice dripping with ice-cold anticipation. Show me. Respect the nail. Watch and learn, Trent says, puffing out his chest. He positions the massive galvanized nail against the unbacked drywall. He grips the hammer. He doesn't pull it back for a polite tap. He winds up like he's trying to split a log with an axe. He swings. The hammer strikes the flat head of the galvanized nail. Because Trent has driven a massive blunt force object into a section of wall consisting of thin, unsupported gypsum board, the wall offers no resistance. The nail punches through instantly. But Trent swung with so much macho force that his momentum carries his entire hand, still gripping the hammer, straight through the wall. Crunch! Trent's fist obliterates the drywall, creating a jagged, bowling ball-sized crater. A massive cloud of white plaster dust explodes into the air, coating Trent's pristine polo shirt. But the universe, dear listener, has a sense of humor. Because behind that exact section of drywall runs a primary half-inch PVC water line for the upstairs master bathroom. And the sharp tip of the galvanized framing nail has just been driven with maximum kinetic energy directly into the side of the highly pressurized pipe. Psh! A violent jet of freezing cold water instantly erupts from the chasm in the wall. It blasts outward like a fire hose, hitting Trent squarely in the chest, soaking him from his perfectly coiffed hair down to his salmon-colored shorts in a fraction of a second. Trent screams, a high-pitched, incredibly unmasculine shriek, and stumbles backward, dropping the hammer inside the wall. The indoor geyser continues to spray a beautiful arched fountain of municipal tap water all over my newly finished hardwood floors. The room is silent except for the aggressive, hissing roar of the ruptured water pipe. I did not blink. I did not move to help him. I simply watched. Trent is standing in the middle of my living room, drenched, shivering, looking like a drowned golden retriever, though infinitely less cute than Barnaby. Plaster dust has turned to a white, milky paste on his face. Water is dripping steadily from his nose. He looks at the gaping, spewing hole. He looks at his wet hands. He looks at me. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the apology. I'm waiting for him to beg me to find the water shutoff valve. Instead, Trent wipes the wet plaster from his eyes. He takes a deep, shaky breath. He stands up straight, thrusting his soaked chest out, refusing to let his ego die. He looks at the waterfall destroying the living room, nods solemnly, and turns to me, a licensed structural engineer. Exactly as I calculated, Trent says, raising his voice over the roar of the rushing water. The house is settling. My eyebrow slowly creeps upward. The house is settling. Yeah, Trent says, gesturing vaguely at the destruction. You see the hydrostatic pressure? My kinetic drop merely revealed a pre-existing catastrophic flaw in the plumbing layout. If I hadn't tested that wall right now, this could have happened while you were sleeping. Honestly, Ellie, you're welcome. He gave me a stiff, soaking wet nod, turned on his squeaking boat shoes, and took exactly one step toward the door. Trent, I said. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. But my voice dropped into the exact, chilling register I use when a steel contractor tries to cut corners on a load-bearing column. It's the voice of an apex predator. Trent freezes. One boat shoe hovers above a puddle. Don't take another step, I commanded, casually pulling my phone out of my pocket. I looked at the geyser. I looked at the spreading pool of water on my custom-stained oak floorboards. My eyes are darting back and forth, my brain calculating material costs, labor rates, and emergency call-out fees. Let's talk about the kinetic drop, Trent, I said, tapping the screen of my phone. Because the kinetic drop just destroyed 3 square feet of half-inch drywall, ruptured a primary half-inch PVC supply line, and is currently introducing roughly 12 gallons of water per minute to my newly finished hardwood floors. Trent slowly turns around. The arrogant veneer is starting to crack under the weight of cold tap water and pure terror. Now, Ellie, like I said, this was a pre-existing... I manage $200 million construction budgets for a living, Trent, I interrupted, not looking up from my screen. I know exactly what an emergency plumber costs on a Tuesday evening. I know the going rate for a drywall patch, texturing, repainting, baseboard replacement, and professional water mitigation to prevent black mold. I finally looked up and locked eyes with him. I calculate your little intuitive grasp of drywall density is going to cost exactly $4,850. And since you forcibly removed the hammer from my hand, trespassed on my property, and bypassed standard tools to use a structural framing nail on unbacked gypsum, I smiled. It's a terrifying, brilliant smile. That bill is going directly to you. Trent swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobs nervously beneath his tight, soaking wet polo collar. You can't be serious. I was helping. Oh, I am deadly serious, I said, stepping carefully around the puddle to close the distance between us. So, before you leave this room, you are going to give me your full legal name, your phone number, and the policy number for your homeowner's liability insurance. If you don't have insurance, I assume you can liquidate some of that mid-tier cryptocurrency portfolio you were bragging about to cover the invoice. Ellie, come on! Hey, no one gets to cause $5,000 in water damage to my house and just walk away, Trent. Not even a visionary like yourself. I held out my phone to him, opening a blank contact card. Name, number, now. Or the next call I make isn't to the plumber, it's to the police to report a vandal. Trent looks at the phone. He looks at the waterfall behind me. He looks at the absolute, unyielding resolve in the eyes of a woman who builds skyscrapers. Defeated, dripping, and stripped of all his unearned confidence, Trent slowly reaches out with a shaking, plaster-covered finger and begins to type his information into my phone. I watched him and reached over to the coffee table to pick up the tiny 4-ounce picture frame of Barnaby the dog. Well, Barnaby, I said to the photo, my voice dripping with sweet, lethal sarcasm. At least we don't have to worry about the plaster-to-wood ratio anymore. The neighbor is paying for professional installation. Because when you build skyscrapers for a living, you learn one very important lesson. You never, ever let the demolition crew leave without paying for damages. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone try to aggressively help you with something you're literally a professional at? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hilarious stories and instant karma moments. And I'll see you in the next one.